Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and a reaction video to something I saw today on GCN. And you know, GCN is the kind of channel that is good for the masses. And then we take that information and then I refine it, I add to it, I delete from it, and I give you something that I think, from my perspective as an ultra cyclist, you might want to hear about, or at least just my take on certain things. This one was 7 things that something for endurance riding. And I thought, okay, it's a pretty good start. And then I'll just add a couple of things. So let's go through their list first. Bone conducting headphones, power banks, cycling gloves, sunscreen, frame bag, tire choice, and saddle. So I want to add a couple of things, and we'll get to that in a minute. So first thing, the bone conducting headphones. Now, I've tried those. I didn't really like them because guess what? You hear too much. Listen, that's just my opinion. You do you. If you do not feel safe riding with headphones and you wish to ride with bone conducting headphones, great. If you don't feel safe riding with bone conducting headphones, don't ride with anything. That's your choice. Jess uses the bone conducting headphones, but I've tried them and it's just, I just hear too much traffic, noise, air. So what's the point for me anyway, right? And then there's no bass. So the music just sounds really, really weak. That's just my opinion though. So I prefer the headphones inside. But even when I have those on, I have very, very good awareness. Like I still hear cars coming. I know the difference in the way the acoustics of everything changes as a car's coming up. There's just some innate things that after spending thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of miles on the road, you know when a car's coming. You sense it. And my head is always on a swivel. I'm always looking back. Always. I don't really like the Garmin radar thing. That's just me anyway. But, you know, for people who ride a lot, here's my take on this. You can make that time really productive, you know, especially if you ride in a safe enough area. The course that we were on, the 200K this Saturday, I mean, the climb was gated. It was like, I don't know how many miles of it is gated, but, you know, 13-mile climb, whatever. Use that time for listening to a podcast or an audiobook or enriching yourself. If you spend 6 hours on the bike, you know, you could use some of that time for intellectual enrichment. So again, just my take on it. Next thing was power banks. Now I thought this was interesting because I have over the years been collecting power banks. It just turns out that way because you have the technology changes over time and you just have more efficient battery packs. So I'm going to show you a couple that I have and tell you why I have them. And by the way, they're in this burrito bag because I thought it would be convenient to carry them. So, you know, these things come in all shapes and sizes. Apologize, there's another one back here. So, you know, on the bigger spectrum, you know, you got these guys here, right? But then this being older, that's only 1800. These are 20 something. Yeah. This guy's over 20 something. I don't know what that, milliamps? I'm sorry, I don't know what that number is. I just know bigger is better. Then, you know, I also have this one, which is super slim, fits in my pocket. Depends how long I'm going out for. If I'm not going out for a 24-hour event and I just need a little extra juice for my phone is pretty old and the battery drains quickly if I'm taking video for you folks. But there's that. Just recently I got this Energizer one. And this is, yeah, this is a 10,000 one. I think this one's only like 5 or 8. Like I said, I don't know what that number means. One of you smart guys can tell me. But, you know, slimmer, a little bit fatter. And then, you know, you can also get the proprietary ones like this one, which is the Garmin one. So it's got the little contact points there. So your 1040 goes through the mount, or it's got to pass through, the mount's got to pass through, you mount that up there. All good. So yeah, a power bank, if you're going out for, I mean, I would suggest anything over like 10 hours, maybe even 8 hours, because you always want to make sure your phone is charged. If you're riding in rural areas, your phone's going to discharge because it's constantly searching for service. So it's going to drain that battery faster. If you're taking video, if you're, you know, stopping to, you know, take calls or something like that, and you're out in a boonieville. So that's what I would suggest. Maybe 8 hours and above. On a 24+ hour or a multi-day thing, you may want to look at some solar charging capability for your power pack, so that, you know, you can charge your other units with your power bank getting fully charged sometime throughout the day or throughout the night. You can then charge the stuff. You stop for a little bit. Now, when I was at PBP, when you go to reserve a cot to get some shut-eye, there was power banks, not power banks, but power strips. And, you know, not everyone, but a lot of people were plugging in their phones, their electronics, their phones, their cycling computers, all that stuff, because, you know, they were going to lay down for 3-4 hours, and it was a good time to get that stuff a good jump, maybe fully charged before you roll out again. So strongly recommend getting a power bank. And even if you're out on the road and you forget to pack one, a lot of convenience stores, they sell like, you know, like the roller quarters style, right? Jess has a couple of those. They look like just a roll of quarters or whatever, loonies in Canada and euros somewhere. I'm sure they have something similar to that. And those are good. They might be just enough to get you through your event. So don't forget that you can still buy one somewhere, as long as you're not completely out in the boonies. But they also mentioned the Dinina Hub, the hubs that charge or that run your headlight, but then can also run your tail light, and then you can take an adapter off of it and then charge your electronics. So if you're going on, you know, serious multi-day stuff, then you should be getting a Dinina Hub. You really should. It just, I know that some folks say, well, it kind of has drag, and it takes away from your efficiency, and especially when you turn it on, right? Because let's say during the day, you may not want it on, but there is some kind of drag. But some of these are getting super, super efficient. And I think if I ever were to do some multiple day, like PBP was only 3-4 days, or whatever that was. Okay. And I think I mentioned solar panels already. One of the things they talked about was cycling gloves. Now, I don't know. I mean, I think everyone pretty much rides with cycling gloves anyway. I ride full-fingered gloves. Jess and I ride full-fingered gloves all the time. Summertime, wintertime, doesn't matter. I love that Ali called it. He didn't want old man hands. I don't want them either. The sun damage, you know, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that just ride a couple of hours in the morning. They do the group ride. They're home by 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. you know, well, maybe in the group ride you should have them on in case there's a crash. But for some people, they just don't ride a lot or enough to merit all these things we're talking about. So maybe you're not even watching this video, by the way. But sun damage, skin cancer is a thing. You watch, you look at some of these athletes that have been doing triathlons for a long time or any of this other stuff, you know, they're wearing singlets and they're exposed to the sun for God knows how many hours. That's just the day of the event. Then they train all the time, right? So, you know, as cyclists, we wear, you know, at least a half sleeve or maybe, you know, all the way down to the elbow if you're looking for the aero stuff. And then we always wear sun sleeves. So as far as gloves, I wear full-fingered gloves. Now, for many years, I didn't wear any gloves. I just really enjoyed the tactile feeling of my bars, my grip tape, bar tape, and the grip on the shifters. But, you know, as I've gotten older, and especially with Jess, you know, she's very conscious of sun protection. So I wear full-fingered gloves. Now, I've often said that if your palms are hurting while you're riding, then maybe take a look at your bike fit. So yes, take a look at your bike fit. Maybe you don't need, you know, all this extra padding on your gloves, because Jess and I, we look for gloves that have no padding at all. But on this last 200K, her hands were hurting and her bike fit's pretty good, but you know, 10 hours on the bike is not, I mean, something's going to wear, something's going to blister, something is going to hurt. And in fact, all her contact points were hurting on that, you know, 200K with 3,140 meters of climbing and 10,800 feet of climbing. So that's a lot of climbing all day in the sun. And yeah, so gloves. Now, you also have to think about things like, okay, you may be okay on a 100-miler, but when these things get longer and you're doing 200 milers, 500 milers, you know, it makes sense. Or you can double wrap your bar tape, you know, figure out a way to make that contact point much more comfortable. We talked about sun. Now, sunscreen was one of the things they talked about. Jess is really, really on top of that. So I need to ask her opinion on one of the things that they mentioned, the zinc oxide. I don't know. There's some things that you don't want in your sunscreen that maybe some of the cheaper sunscreens will have it. Just like I guess aluminum in your deodorants and stuff, right? So I don't know what those chemicals are, so I'll just need to ask her. But Ollie was talking about a stick, other than using a liquid, or just uses a spray for her legs and stuff. But let's talk about that, because I've never used a stick before, and I don't know how effective those are. He seemed to think that it's good because it doesn't wash off and drip into your eyes. So that's obviously a good thing. Yeah, so skin cancer is a thing. Frame bags. Now, I've been collecting these as well over time. Jess and I, on the 200K, we used this burrito bag. Now, because of her mental fatigue during the event, she didn't get stuff out of here during the ride. So I want to point out how you're supposed to use these things. This is like a pantry, right? This is the stuff that you will access later. You have your pockets on your jersey. So those jersey pockets are what you need between each control or each sag stop or whatever it is that you're doing, right? If it's not an organized event. And you say, okay, I need this, this, and this, and this. That'll get me to the 50-mile point till I get to the store or whatever, to get more water, right? That's what this is for. It's not typically, unless you have good riding skills like I can get in here and while I'm riding, open it up, get what I need and close it up. But if you are not comfortable doing that, don't do that, but keep the stuff in here that you need. So on the 200K, I had multiple baggies of my energy product. Straight carbohydrates, no electrolytes, no protein, no fat. I had that in baggies in here so that whenever we would stop for water, pull out those baggies. Because I'm not going to have those in my pockets. I can't do anything with it, right? I mean, what am I eating powder while riding? So that's what was in here. Stuff that I did not need access to. You can put your, your power pack in there. You can put a few other things, maybe some sunscreen or something like that, because you're not going to put that on while you're riding. I mean, you can, but generally you wouldn't. You'd reapply at a stop. So those are the things you put in here. But they did mention frame bags. So I have a couple of frame bags, and oh, let me cover this one real quick. So this bag is so that you can put it on your aero bars, right? So you just, these two loops here is where the aero bars go through, right? So cool. And it's got a little thing to put a light on and stuff. So there's that bag. Now this is a frame bag from Pro, the component and accessories division of Shimano. So it's a frame bag because it's more aero than the Burrito Bag. But honestly, sometimes we don't need to obsess about stupid stuff like that, okay? You just need to be able to carry your stuff. Don't worry about it. If you use a Burrito Bag, your head and your shoulders are way less aero than that bag. However, if you really worry about that stuff, you can use a frame bag. So Jess was having trouble with that. So maybe we will work towards a frame bag for her. Now, another thing they mentioned, which I thought was interesting because, yeah, sometimes roadies and triathletes don't mix very well. But you know what? They have a few things that we like. And they mentioned the bento box. So, this is just the original, take stuff along with you, put this on your top tube. So here is your head tube. This is your top tube. And then you just open up the little net thing and put stuff in there that you want access to. And you're riding along and it's right there in front of you. You don't have to reach out behind you if you don't have the confidence to do that. Or if you're in a pack, maybe you're in a pack and there's a lot of people and you're doing a 200 miler and you're all still congested until things break apart. Then you could just reach in here real quick and just grab the stuff you need, and your hands are really close to your shifters and your brake calipers, your brake levers. This is another way to do that, right? So, I can fit 3, 4, 5 gels in here. That's a lot of calories, by the way, because each one of those is 150. And again, that's your head tube. This slims down towards you, the rider. This is your top tube straps. Now, of course, if they don't cinch up well enough, or like Colin was saying, Connor, the bag, can flip-flop back and forth as you're standing up and doing stuff. And then here's another top tube bag from Pro, larger capacity, so you can fit a larger. Now I like these because I can put my battery pack here, cable comes out, plugs into my cycling computer, and I'm charging on the go. So that, depending on the size of your battery pack, may determine the size of your top tube bag. So top tube bag, frame bags. And I do want to give a shout out to the whole gravel community, because I've been doing endurance riding for a very long time, and we didn't have all these options before. It took the gravel market to create all these additional options for us. So good thing for the gravel market giving that to us. Last thing was tires. Tire choice. Now, you can obsess about, oh, these 32s weigh 40 grams more than the 30s, whatever, I'm just throwing a number out. Or it's not as aero because the rim profile and the tire are not flush. Listen, a lot of that stuff is just for the pros. It's not for you, okay? If you're riding along on a 200K and your average speed for the day is like 13 miles per hour, like mine was for this last 200K, you're not worried about, oh, but that's less aero at 40K, because you're not that rider. You're the rider that needs comfort, and that tire volume, that additional tire size and volume provides that comfort. It will tame some of the rougher roads that you may be on and get that pressure down. And that's why tubeless has become more and more prominent, because you get that tire volume up and you can get the tire pressure down. You know, on the Richie Road Logic forum, the most common questions on that forum are, what's the max tire size you can fit in your blood? You know, it's like, it's a repetitive, it's almost like I wish they were on bikeforums.net instead, because then they could just search that term and then all the threads would come up that talk about that. But you know, Facebook is Facebook, right? But that's the most common thing we're hearing. We're hearing, you know, a Pirelli coming out with a P040 tire, a 40. And I think Schwabe's doing one too. So tire size is getting bigger and bigger on the performance end, which is what I'm talking about. You know, and this is all due to, you know, some of the pro cycling stuff, but gravel has made tire tread and technology research, made it more prominent for these bigger tire sizes. We just didn't have these options before. So another, you know, hat tip, whatever it's called, chapeau, to gravel, because it's now giving us all these options. And as an endurance roadie, I didn't have, you know, 20 years ago, I didn't have a 32 high performance tire. You just didn't have that. So that's great. So let's not worry so much about the weight or how aero the tire is. Let's worry about comfort. And I couldn't believe I heard Ali saying that, because he's a super shill for technology, and he's always the weight weenie and the performance and the aero guy. So it was good to hear that from him. If you don't have a cush tire, you're getting on and off the bike more frequently because you're getting beat up by your bike. So tire choice could make you faster, even if it is heavier and even if it isn't as aero. Think about that. Jan Hein from Renee Hurst has been hammering away at these tire sizes, bigger and bigger and bigger. And really it comes down to what is the biggest tire you can fit in your frame. And this gentleman rides these big tires on epic events. It's not slowing him down, right? Okay. They alluded to the tire pressure. There's a pretty good video that GCN ollie on a machine that replicated Paris Olympic road course, I guess, and had some cobblestones, so they were working out tire pressures, right? And it was very interesting. They did all these tests on 28s because I guess some pros are still riding 28s, but they're riding bigger than that. And as individuals, recreational cyclists like me, I'm riding bigger than 28. On the norm, we ride 30s, and then we put 32s on for, you know, these events so that we're comfortable. Saddles. That was their last point. Still need to add a couple of mine. Saddles, don't be a weight weenie. Find a saddle that works. Don't worry about aesthetics. Find a saddle that works. One thing he mentioned that I thought was interesting was that the alloy saddle was more comfortable than a carbon rail saddle. That it absorbs vibrations more. So I'd like to hear your comments on that. And comfort, 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 right? That was the theme. And I'm glad that GCN did a video about this kind of stuff. Yeah, you want to be comfortable. A lot of times, it has nothing to do with how light something is. You know, I had my frame pump with me. You know, there's stuff that you do as an endurance cyclist that you would never do if you're doing an uphill time trial, right? Because this is not what this is. You want to finish the event. So a couple of additional things. Aero bars. So this is an aero bar that I use because it doesn't matter what handlebars I have, it is secured to the stem. So, you know, it's a good aero bar position for me. And it's, I don't know why they didn't talk about aero bars for endurance riding. Another thing that they mentioned was, or they didn't mention, was, in my opinion, the ability to carry more fluids / fuel. So, you know, on this last 200K, we just used these simple gadget, right? You just Velcro this to your down tube. So we had 3 bottles. I don't really like the bottles off the back. I mean, you just end up ejecting those anyway. So I'm not a big fan of those. But if you can put like a, I think it's called B-Rad or something, where one of the riders on this 200K had it. They had their bottles, their top bottle mount had 2 bottles. Then he had another bottle and then one underneath. So he had 4 bottles. And so in my opinion, it makes a lot of sense if you're doing an endurance event. I mean, if you have the legs to do it, the longer you're on the bike, the further you get down the course. And this sounds so obvious, but I'm telling you, if you have to keep stopping to refuel, you have to keep stopping because you're dehydrated and need more fluids, take more bottles. That weight is negligible on flatter courses because you're just kind of rolling along. If you're doing a lot of climbing, maybe you might consider that. But again, I strongly believe having more fluids with you is far more important than the extra weight that it has. But, you know, someone might argue with me on that. I do want to know, I've seen these before, but I don't know where to order them from. They're the silicone straps that have holes in them. And, you know, so instead of a bungee cord, it's a silicone strap, I think silicone, and you wrap it around something, and then, it has like these buttonholes, and then you're able to secure things to your bike. So that would be something else that I would love to have as part of my repertoire of accessories for when I go long, because then I just strap that thing on, strap something else on there that is not actually mounted to the bike, mounted to another bag, if you will. So anyway, those are my additional points. Chamois cream as well was another thing. They didn't talk about chamois cream, but that's another thing you put in here. You just put the little single-use packets Or if you have a smaller tube, put that in there because you don't need that right away, right? That is just your storage. And then when you stop, go in there and grab that stuff. Refreshen if you go to use the facilities, reapply sunscreen, chamois cream, whatever, get back on your bike and get it done. Okay, those are my points. If you've got some stuff to add, put that down below. I might have mentioned that this was not an all-inclusive list, but I'll say it again, this is not an all-inclusive list. Make some comments down below. Let's get that discussion going. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.